Hey guys, welcome back to analyzing the Magnus Protocol. Oh boy, today, we did it! Hurrah! Episode 42, Hostile Workplace. Damn, this one is juicy. This one is good. This is what everyone who has listened to Archives and then Protocol, this is what we have been waiting for the past handful of years. Is this episode right here. Nevertheless, it is as good, it is great, better than ever. So, if you do enjoy these episodes, like, subscribe, and let's just get right into it. We hear a tape recorder click on, as always. And we experience a little bit of a time jump from when we last left Sam and Georgie, and now. Sam is trying to wake Alice up, to no avail, and then Georgie walks in a moment later saying the archivist is a lot vaster than she had seemed. Alice stirs awake, saying just wake me in an hour, haha, funny Alice. Georgie then radios Melanie to send a medical team over here, and then Sam notices something on his arm. He notices eyeballs popping up on his arm. Fucking horrifying. He panics a little bit. It makes there's this very sound design excellent, as always, but the weird squishy sounds that these eyeballs make when they're popping on his arm, not popping, but emerging on his arm, very gross. To quote the transcripts, Sam looks down at his arm looks back at him. So yeah, Sam is very freaked out at the moment. And Georgie is like, when the hell did that happen? And Sam is just fucking, I don't know, saying it must have happened when it grabbed me. Which tells me that in the little time jump, that in between the little two bits, Sam and Georgie had come back to Alice's parents' house, and the archivist was there, taking a statement from Alice when the archivist and Sam had a tussle because it grabbed him. And then Georgie ended up running after it. Who knows? Regardless, Sam and Georgie then step aside with Alice asking what the hell's going on. Georgie being like, can you see out of those? And Sam is like, fucking no. Am I supposed to? Am I going to? And bro's freaking the hell out. Georgie saying then that she doesn't know, but this isn't the weirdest thing that has happened before, which is interesting. And we get this lovely little interaction between the two.
We can't just leave them in case it gets worse.
Worse? How can it get worse?
Let's just say we need to get rid of them.
But how do you get rid of extra eyeballs?
I mean, I assume the normal way?
The normal way? Oh, Christ.
So Georgie asks Alice if there's a sewing kit in the house. And Alice is like, yeah, there's one upstairs. And she's like, okay, my plan is to lance them out like a boil. So getting it under the skin and just pop, which is gross, firstly, and secondly, also gross. And then Georgie, either purposefully or by accident, says to keep an eye on Alice. Haha. But she goes to find that, and then it's just Sam and Alice for a minute. Sam basically saying that, oh, I thought I lost you there for a moment, and Alice is like, well, I already lost you, so... And it's still really obvious, and of course it is, that Archives Alice wants Sam to still stick around. Whether it's her Sam or not, it's still Sam. So that is still very prevalent here, which I think is going to be something that bites our main cast of characters in the ass later down the line. Alice is like, is there any way you can still talk things out with your Alice? And Sam is just saying, well, we had a talk, but it didn't really work out, blah, 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 blah. And then Alice is just like, well, you guys should go through an apocalypse together. Did wonders for us. Which on one hand, ha ha ha, on the other hand, Georgie then comes back saying, okay, good news is I found a nice big needle. Great news is Melanie's managed to call in the med team and they're on their way. Bad news is they said we need to sort out your arm ASAP. Alice begins wondering, okay, what's wrong with Sam? Sam and Georgie is like, oh, it's nothing, right, Sam? Sam's like, yeah, okay, yeah, we're just gonna go over here. It's just, oh, it's just standard, aid he needs. And and then there's this from the transcripts. Sam asking, is it going to hurt? Georgie, probably. Is that going to be a problem? And then Sam, parentheses, yes. No. Then Sam bites down on a belt, and Shahan puts a really good performance here with Sam as Georgie plucks, laces up, sews out 6 eyeballs on his arm, and it's gross and squishy. Bro is also yelling his lungs out through a belt, and it's really distressing for a few moments, but it ends. Georgie's saying, this will be good enough, the medics will have a look at it later. Also, Alice was helping hold his arms down during that. After it's done, Sam is like, oh, I'm fine. And then, bro just faints, passes out right on the spot. Then, tape recorder clicks off, clicks back on, and Sam, again, wakes up in a medical bed to Melanie, surprisingly, right next to him. With Melanie saying that the scratching at the bandages won't help. Trust me, Sam, you have no idea how. And then Melanie butts in saying, you want to try that again? The blind thing. And Sam basically just saying that they're worried they're gonna go back. Melanie says that the doctor doesn't really worry about it. There has been much weirder stuff coming from the London exclusion zone. Gave an example how a rookie was in there for too long, grew another face on a very unexpected area. That is when Sam asks, okay, well, how's Alice doing? And Melanie's she's fine as long as she doesn't do anything stupid. And then we get Georgie and motherfucking Basira showing up, again played by Frank Voss, oh, the great. Interestingly, Sam immediately recognizes Basira as the deputy head from the school, and he tells her that. Basira seems very interested in her double part. Seems like they would have had a much longer conversation, but Georgie cuts in saying, yo, this is Basira, and me, Basira, and Melanie are probably, likely, hopefully the only 3 that really knows kinda what happened and what's going on. Maybe with the archivist guy. And Basira basically saying like out loud saying, it's like, okay, so this archivist thing could be John or his double, none of them not really knowing. And then Georgie saying that what she saw was something so transformed and so inhuman, if it was John, he bro's too far gone at this point. To which Sam butts in, being like, okay, who's this John guy? What we've been asking for him to say for ages. But Melanie begins explaining everything.
So, a few years ago, before everything went to hell, we had a colleague?
A friend.
A guy called Jonathan Sims.
She explains that Jonathan Sims was the head archivist for the Magnus Institute, and that her and Basira, but not Georgie, had ended up working there at some time. And that John had gotten wrapped up in very bad, very unfortunate, supernatural mumbo-jumbo, which eventually and essentially led to the whole world turning into hell. Eventually, though, he was able to undo of it, but got himself and a dear friend of theirs, we love you, Martin, all killed in an explosion. To which Basira is like, maybe presumed dead. And we get an interesting thing with Georgie saying it's not likely because at that same time the building they were at exploded, so dead is a high likelihood. But Basira tries to rebuttal, and Georgie is just like, alright, let's not do this again. Which is interesting, telling me that the 3 of them likely have all had arguments about what really happened or what could have happened afterwards. Because if I remember correctly, this is like 5 or 6 years after all that, so that would have been a lot of time for argument, discussion, etc. Anyways, yeah, so Sam finally says what everyone's been thinking, saying that this archivist thing from where he's from could be this John archivist from their world. Then Basira asks where Sam's archivist came from, and Sam basically says his Magnus Institute burned down 25 years ago, and Basira cuts in saying, lucky, and Sam is like, I guess so, because he and his Alice were, searching the ruins, and they must have accidentally let him loose / woken it, etc. But saying that it has been trapped there assumably all that time, or at least a very long time. Oh my god. Then, this is the thing that I talk about. This is what we have been wanting ever since we got Protocol and understood what exactly it was in relation to Magnus Archives. Georgie asks Sam if their institute ever served the Eye, to which Sam says, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Melanie saying, "Okay, well, your institute, did they take a lot of statements, a lot of stories, etc.?" And Sam is like, "No, they were much into alchemy." Georgie, alchemy, what, like turning lead into gold? Sam, more like lead plus fear into gold, but yeah, sure. I'll get in on what that means later. Sam asks then what the institute was really working for, what their institute really worked for. Basira giving the explanation, saying that in their world, there was fear manifested into a supernatural force, which was chopped up into 14 and a half, 15-ish fears. Corruption, bugs, filth, etc. Spiral, madness, not trusting yourself. And she begins to talk about the hunt, and then stops, saying, "You get the idea. It's been 5-6 years, but oh my god, we miss Daisy." She really misses Daisy. Not outright saying, but Sam begins to kind of discuss about the OIR, saying that they just categorized little stories they were given into a much broader thing than what they had. Giving an example, he says, when he applied for the Magnus Institute's gifted kids outreach program thingamabob, that TLDR, he encountered a man with a skeleton trying to get out of his body. To which Melanie and Basira say, "Oh, that sounds like flesh. Or maybe it could be buried." And they say that respectively, which is like, yeah, they're doing the thing that we've been doing this whole time. Sam continues saying that sort of thing would have been cross-referenced of like alchemy and then cross-referenced with human bones, but that's not exactly where he was going with this. But he begins to start to monologue, I suppose. He goes into a statement, basically saying that he had to, from this experience with Dr. What's-his-fuck. Why am I, Wellings? Wellings. I'm positive it's Wellings, but I could very well be wrong. After that whole experience at the Magnus Institute, he had a big fear of just skeletons, weirdly enough. Well, actually, not weirdly, it makes a lot of sense. Regardless, this was a deep-seated phobia of skeletons after the traumatic experience at the Magnus Institute, blah, 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 blah. And he never told anyone about it out of a fear of no one believing him. While skeletons were like a goofy Halloween thingamabob trope, he was always haunted by the much grislier version of what he saw that day, and it clung on to him well into his adulthood. Later he had worked as a paralegal in a law firm, and he'd worked with a few other people, but after one institute during Halloween, a co-worker set up little skeletons at everyone's desks, not knowing, and Sam had basically what sounds like an anxiety attack, essentially, and one of the co-workers, Natasha, had helped him calm down, etc., but the other co-workers found out about that, or her kindness turned malevolent when later they had gotten him to go into a closet to grab something, and there was a hanging skeleton in there. Not a real one, but like a fake one. It was a glow-in-the-dark skeleton that was pinned to the door. This little harmless prank turned very horrid and surreal for him as it began to dance and reach out for Sam, but eventually he was helped by their boss, Jean Pierce, and the Institute left Sam very injured as he had a bunch of paper cuts all over his face, and after that, he was essentially let go from the job, and he was mentally shaken from this whole thing, a very normal, a typical prank gone wrong type shit. Sam. So yeah, I don't know how this fits into whatever system you use for these things. Melanie, it doesn't. Basira. Anyone else clock when it turned into a statement? Sam. What? Melanie then thinks that the archivist might nearby. Georgie saying that they have so many people around, that's not likely. And also, this could very well just be an effect from being near the London exclusion zone, or the other zones for too long, which is an interesting theory. But Sam continues with his story saying that he was encouraged to move on from this little traumatic ordeal. Basically, bro was fired. Georgie basically says that whatever they know, it doesn't seem like the same stuff is working as before. And Sam is like, yeah, stuff doesn't make sense from my end either, but that could be, like, changed or different because of... Okay, Sam says the same thing and explains that the whole eye thing is new for him, but wondering if the eye, the entity, has changed that. Basira basically saying, had it would've, but it's gone now. With Georgie saying, having another archivist might change that. And then this is where she goes into her spiel of, things are gonna get messy if you guys want to leave. No one does, obviously. We got the main gang back together, and then we get this funny thing of, everyone saying they're still in. Melanie is like, even though I'm blind, I can still hear when you're looking at me, you fucks, and says, I'm in, but I'll let you guys do the shooting. And then the episode ends on Sam being like, wait, shooting, can I have a gun? And all three of them are just, no. And then the episode ends. Like, okay. Firstly, I'm gonna pull it up here, because other than that, I wouldn't have any proof. But I have been working on a little, theory video. It never really took off. Again, I'm procrastinating a lot of the bullshit I do. But it was a theory on essentially what exactly connects alchemy and the fears, and what exactly connects alchemy and the fears from Protocol and Archives. I basically fucking called it right here. I'll bring up the little piece from the pages long research and things I was writing. I still might, get to that eventually, especially after this, essentially confirming my theory. But essentially, after John and Martin, and then exploded, all the fears still basically escaped this reality to somewhat of an extent, because as we learned throughout this season so far, there is still weird shit going on in the Archives world post Towerfall. With, mention if I'm wrong, but I believe, initially when the Archivist and Sam showed up, tape recorders popping up randomly wasn't necessarily an old thing. You shut the fuck. And, they have weird cultist people that try to get in. I assume cultist people that try to get into the London exclusion zones. That's why it's a no one in, no one out sort of deal. And as we learned from Ash Pines from a few episodes ago, there are people that still want to be dragged into their fears. That's why I think cultists. That the London exclusion zone isn't just in London, that's just the biggest one, because that's where the shit went down. But, there's other areas, some which I hypothesize are maybe other, what's the word? Bird is the word, but that's not the word I'm looking for. Rituals. Other ritual sites, like in Antarctic and the Black Sun, the whole thing the Dark was doing, the one fucking hole that was filled up by, Gertrude, but no, other sites like that cloded up. I mentioned this in a previous video, but still, this episode confirmed that theory, even though I never brought it out there. So it's just me that knows it. Now you guys. But holy fucking shit. This shit is bonkers. I'm so excited that they're actually mentioning, we got Basira, we got all of them talking about the fears, all of this. On one hand, I'm not surprised that Sam doesn't remember the fucking dumbass that is Jonathan Sims that, what was it? In the Protocol world, he just died of a heart attack or some shit? I'll bring it up again here. I don't fucking remember. But I'm not surprised he doesn't remember him because he was just a nobody that maybe worked at the Magnus Institute. But then again, the name's Jonathan Sims, the motherfucking head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. No, this is fantastic episode. I cannot wait for next episode. Because, again, if we're doing the same pattern of flip-flopping, the things that are in the air now is what's at the address that Protocol Alice and Heinrich will find is the KS person that made the code Klaus, because that would mean Klaus encountered external Heinrich as a kid, grew up to develop a thing to make stories, or come up with Oh no. This all going through my head at once. What if Heinrich is actually in charge of Freddy? Because through all those stories and whatnot, that's how he gets fear. Oh no. We'll pin up that on the theory board then, I guess. Heinrich turning out to be big evil bad guy? Maybe. But yeah, what are our two protocol boys doing? Is anything else gonna go on with Celia? Because I feel like Celia's been kind of backlined so far this season, which is understandable because season 1 was a lot of how the fuck did you get here? Why are you here? Go back to your own universe kind of shit. But I hope we get a little more Celia. Oh, Gwen and Lena meeting up. Is Lena gonna die? They're gonna meet up because they were talking to Freddy. Freddy might want Lena dead. Or something. Again, is Colin really dead? Is he just broken down in Freddy and he's gonna be rebuilt one day? Who knows? And then, of course, we got our archives trio plus Sam, wondering where the fuck they're all, out and about. Yeah, lots of good shit going on. I can't wait. And, of course, if you enjoy this, and you want, next week's one, like, subscribe, leave a comment, maybe. What are your theories? I always look on the Reddit. Post to the Reddit if you have theories. I always look at that shit, and, shit's interesting. If you want me to work on I'm still gonna work on that other theory video that I had about what exactly connects this and that and the other. But who knows? Could be interesting. Could very well be interesting. I'm gonna go edit this now.